Let's be real, one of the best parts about living here in Fort Lauderdale is the waterfront lifestyle. Think about it. You're gonna be able to wake up, watch the sunrise, walk directly out to the beach, or even wake up, walk directly out into your backyard, hop on the boat, and go enjoy the day. Which begs the question, is it better to live on the beach here in Fort Lauderdale, or is it better to live on the water here in Fort Lauderdale? And honestly, I have my own personal opinion, but I'd be interested to see what you guys think. So in this video, we're gonna talk about the pros and the cons of both living on the beach as well as living on the water, along with some of the best neighborhoods and even some of the best buildings here on Fort Lauderdale Beach. Because let's face it, there's not a whole lot of single family homes. But before we do that, all I ask is that if you or anyone you know are looking to buy, sell, or invest here in the Fort Lauderdale area, or even South Florida in general, we'd love to be your real estate resource of choice. We've helped hundreds of families just like you make the move here to Fort Lauderdale and South Florida, and unfortunately helped some of them actually leave the area completely. But whatever we can do to help you, please let us know. You can call, text, or even email us. We're happy to help. So let's start off with living on the beach. I like to start off with the negative stuff because obviously eat your vegetables, then you get to enjoy the fun part of the meal. So we'll start off with the cons first. Number one is the tourists. Obviously, Fort Lauderdale is a huge hotspot for vacation and even spring break. So with that being said, a lot of places along the beach are very touristy, naturally, and that brings a lot of tourists. So even if you're living on the beach, whether you're in Gulf Mile or even on the southern end closer to the port, there is a ton of traffic from tourists along with a ton of tourists overall. Now, another thing to think about with that is sometimes it is very seasonal along the beach. So for example, if you live in Gulf Mile has a ton of people who are only here seasonally from about November to end of March, maybe beginning of April. So during that time it's popping. But other than that, it can be kind of dead, maybe a little bit slower. Maybe you like that, maybe you don't. But if you want to be around energy all the time, that is something you have to keep in mind. Next is the views. I know what you're thinking, Joe, the views, you gotta be kidding me. The views are a pro. Yes, they are. But there's also a con to it. Think about it. If you're looking out at night, it's pitch black. There's no lights out there. You might see some boats and things like that, and you hear the waves crashing, which is a huge pro. But if you're looking for like energy, nightlife, and even just like the city lights, having a unit that only faces east can be something that you have to think about. Meanwhile, there are plenty of units that face both east and west, which I think are some of the best exposures, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But I think probably the last thing that we need to talk about is the cost. Now, when it comes to the cost, for the most part, people who live on the beach live in a condo because there's not that many single family homes on the beach in the Fort Lauderdale area. There are some, but for the most part, it's condos. And with that being said, a lot of these condos have much higher HOA fees than condos out west. It's not uncommon for your condo on the beach to be having an HOA fee of anywhere between $1,200 to maybe upwards of $3,500 to $4,000 a month. And obviously that's because of the salt air, which completely starts to eat at things, whether it's the building, the balconies, windows, all that in between. Same thing with living on the water, but now it's just lumped into one and the building's taking care of it. On top of that, some of these buildings do have assessments since they are a little bit older. They're trying to get up to today's standards, have fully funded reserve funds, and ensure that nothing that happened in Surfside ever happens again. So you could have your HOA fee, on top of that you have your assessment, and you haven't even touched your taxes and your mortgage if you have a mortgage. So those are a couple things to think about. But now let's talk about the fun stuff. What are the pros of living on the beach? Obviously, number one, the view. Think about it. Waking up every morning to the ocean, the sunrise, that is unbeatable. And like I was saying before, a lot of these units actually have two components to them. So you'll have an east-facing component to it, where you get to watch and see the ocean, and then they'll also have a west-facing component where usually the bedrooms are. So you also have kind of the city views, you have the intercoastal views, and I personally like the west view a little bit more. If it was up to me though, and money wasn't an option, I'm getting a southwest view because you can kind of see to the left a little bit of ocean, but you're also seeing everything south. You can see downtown, you see the port, and you also have the western views. I think that's the best part. Other than that, another pro to it, there's always something to do. It's always popping. There's a lot of activity right up and down along the beach, whether you're looking for some small shopping, you're looking for something more touristy, plenty of great restaurant options. You have everything going on in Gulf Mile as well. We even have the new Marina Village, Bahia Mar, which is really cool. So it's like these different food, it's like a food hall with little kiosks. You have everything from lobster rolls, sushi, there's a bowl place, you can get tacos, pizza, gelato, ice cream, and there's even a bar on the water called the Shorely. So as you can see, it's a very lively area as well. Plus there's plenty of great neighborhoods right here on the beach. So like I said, we're gonna talk about that. So some of the hot ones are obviously Gulf Mile, which is a strip of condos. It's about a mile long, right along the beach, extremely walkable, plenty of shopping, dining, and entertainment options, along with a Winn-Dixie and even a new Publix coming. Then we have the central beach area, which is really hot as well, with some newer condo buildings like that of the Celine building coming. You also have the Paramount over here, which I really like, along with some of the condotel options like the Ritz-Carlton, as well as the W residences. Now you are a little bit closer though in Central Beach to a kind of the touristy area, but that's a trade-off that you have to make because you're also right there near Las Olas if you want to go up Las Olas, or I guess down Las Olas further west, to kind of where it's more a little bit residential. You have shopping, dining, and even nightlife options there. And the last pro probably has to be the ease of just leaving. I mean, think about it. If you live in a condo right there on the beach here in Fort Lauderdale and you're going away for 6 months, all you have to do is lock up. The building will take care of everything. You don't have to worry about anything. You just leave your thermostat on, just get one of the Nest ones, make it super simple. You can lock up and leave. Meanwhile, if you lived on the water and you have a single family house, it's a little bit of a different process leaving for 6 months at a time. Now, when it comes to living on the water, obviously they have their pros and their cons too. But between you and I'd probably pick living on the water. But I'm also more of a single family home kind of guy, and I also like boating a little bit more than the beach. But let's talk about the pros and the cons. So like we did before, let's start with the cons. Number one, it's gonna be a lot more expensive. Think about it. If you want to live on the water, most more than likely, you're gonna be living in a single family home on the water, which in the Fort Lauderdale area, you're gonna be easily over 1.5 million, closer to around the $2.5 million range. Meanwhile, if you wanted to live on the beach, you're gonna live in a condo, you could get a studio or a 1-bedroom and be in the like mid 400s, maybe even mid $500,000 range. Another thing to think about is the insurance costs with living on the water. Obviously, if you buy it cash, you don't have to have insurance. Granted, it's probably a good idea, but if you get a mortgage, you're gonna have to get insurance. And with that being said, your insurance premiums living on the water are gonna be a little bit more expensive. Plus, you also have to have flood insurance. So that is something to keep in mind. Another thing to think about is the lack of privacy. Now, I will say if you live on one of the canals, you do have a lot more privacy than if you live on the intercoastal. But honestly, isn't the dream to live on the intercoastal, kind of watch the boats go up and down? Yeah, I get it. Some people like the privacy a little bit more. But no matter what, you're still gonna be looking directly into someone's backyard. So you're gonna wanna either have tinted glass or some kind of tint. But at night, if the lights are on, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, you could still see straight in. It's not like it's that far away. You can literally throw a football across the canals 99% of the time. On top of that, I think the last con is the fixed bridge situation. Obviously, the further back you go along the river or just along some of the intercoastal, prices get a little bit better, but they come with a downside. A lot of them do have fixed bridges. So if you have a fixed T-top or even a fly bridge, it could be very difficult or almost impossible to get back there. Now, I will say in the Sailboat Bend, Tarpon River area, and even back into River Oaks, which may seem kind of far away, there are no fixed bridges, so it is still doable, but on the flip side of things, you're still a good 30, maybe 35 minutes to the intercoastal. So it is something to think about, all depending on the size of your boat. But let's now go to the good side, the dessert. Let's talk about the pros. What are the pros of living on the water? Number one, you wake up, you go directly out to the boat. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to call the marina, set things up. You can just go right out there, hop on, then you come back. You hang out, put the boat on the lift, start cleaning it, watch everyone just hop in the pool and hang out and have fun while you and your dad clean the boat and no one helps. That happens quite a bit. You'd be surprised. Another big pro of it is obviously you have a single family house. Personally, I just like it more. You have a little bit more space, obviously. The driveway, the parking situation's a little bit better. I just like that fact. Another thing to think about on the pros is you're a lot closer to your everyday necessities. One thing I forgot to mention when it comes to the condos and things like that is most of the stuff is on the mainland, or not necessarily the mainland, but you have to go across the bridge. Meanwhile, if you live on the water in some of these neighborhoods here in Fort Lauderdale, you're right there in the heart of everything. So like, for example, Rio Vista. You can come right out of Rio Vista, walk, bike, take a golf cart drive. You have Publix, 2 strip centers right there with pretty much everything you can need. The only thing we don't have right there is a Costco, but there's not a Costco anywhere here in Fort Lauderdale. But what are some of the best neighborhoods when it comes to living on the water here in Fort Lauderdale? Honestly, my personal favorite's Rio. I just like the mix of homes on the water, the community, everything like that. But there's also some other great ones. You have things like Harbor Beach, which also has no fixed bridges, deep water access. Then we work our way a little bit further north. We get into Las Olas Isles, which obviously is famous for, you have Las Olas right there, which is really nice, but also no fixed bridges, which is a huge thing. Then you could work your way back west. So going along the New River, you can get into Sailboat Bend, Tarpon River, the Riverside Park area, which all have deep water access along with no fixed bridges. So that's something not a whole lot of people know about. So it's kind of a hidden gem. Plus you're gonna save a little bit on like the cost of the home as well. Then as we work our way north, you get into areas like Coral Ridge, which is great because there's also the Coral Ridge Yacht Club over there. You have the landings and even Bay Colony. And at the end of the day, it really boils down to, do you enjoy the beach and everything it has to offer, including the sunrises, the sunsets, and all that? Or are you more of a boater? You wanna have your boat in the backyard, be able to go in and out whenever, you don't have to be on someone else's schedule. And you can even enjoy dinner, maybe some drinks out there on the dock or even around the pool as well. Let me know in the comments down below which you think is better. And if you wanna live either one of these lifestyles or just in Fort Lauderdale in general, we'd love to be your real estate resource of choice. You can call us, text us, email, whatever's easiest for you, we got you.